trial of Jeremy Bamber, the prosecution had to overcome the problem that no one saw anyone on the roads or paths that night who actually fitted Jeremy's description, or indeed Jeremy himself. Police accounted for every section of the roads and paths, interviewing over 500 people in a determined effort to place Jeremy between the two houses. Neighbours had seen Jeremy's car outside his house all night. This meant the investigation had been fruitless. Because of this factor, along with the absence of any evidence linking Jeremy to the scene, the prosecution had to become more creative in their thinking. This they did without any evidence whatsoever. The prosecution's case was that Jeremy Bamber had left his house in Head Street, Goldhanger, and walked to White House Farm after 12 p.m. to carry out the killings. In a fantastic story, unsupported by evidence, he allegedly walked the route across farmland to White House Farm in order to murder his family. They claimed he broke into farmhouse through a window, even though there was no evidence of a forced entry and the doors were locked and bolted from the inside. It is then alleged that after carrying out the killings, he used his mother's bicycle to return to his home across farmland in the pitch black of night. The police forensically tested the bicycle and found there to be no blood or forensic evidence linking Jeremy to the crime in any way. The bicycle belonged to Jeremy's mother, but it had been brought to Jeremy's house for Julie Mugford to use, in order for her to cycle from Goldhanger to Tolson Darcy, leaving the bike at the Red Lion pub. She would then get the Osborne's bus, which runs from Tollesbury to Colchester. There was no forensic evidence found on the bicycle relating to the tragedies. In fact, it was beneficiary Robert Boltflower who noted in his diaries that he himself suggested to police that Jeremy had used the bicycle. A police officer, D.I. Wilkinson, gave evidence of the timings between the two houses using farmland routes in his statement of the 17th of October 1985. The journeys were not replicated at night time as Jeremy Bamber is alleged to have done, neither were they carried out by a man of the same height, weight and build as Jeremy. The accuracy of the tests is highly debatable, and it would be advisable to add a significant amount of time to the calculations the officer made. Remember, neither Jeremy Bamber nor anyone meeting his description was seen on any of the routes by anyone that night. His car remained at his house in Goldhanger until he drove to White House Farm to meet the police. The following are extracts from the police officer's statement. With the aid of these maps, I measured the distance using a pedometer from White House Farm to 9 Head Street, Goldhanger, via the farm track and sea wall. This route measured 6,978 metres and at a brisk walk took 70 minutes to complete. I subsequently cycled this route in 35 minutes. I then measured the distance using a pedometer from 9 Head Street, Goldhanger to Brookhouse Farm track at its junction with Meldon Road via Church Street and the B1026. This route measured 2,895 metres and at a brisk walk took 28 minutes to complete. I subsequently cycled this route in 10 minutes. I then measured the distance using a pedometer from Brookhouse Farm track at its junction with Meldon Road to White House Farm via B1026 and B1023. This route measured 3,290 metres and at a brisk walk took 30 minutes to complete. I subsequently cycled this route in 12 minutes. I then measured the distance with a pedometer from White House Farm to Malden Road via Brookhouse Farm track. This route measured 1,629 metres and at a brisk walk took 17 minutes to complete. There are footpaths marked on the Ordnance Survey map which seem to link White House Farm and Goldhanger in a direct manner via Joyce's Farm and Lauriston Farm. However, I have attempted to negotiate these footpaths, but without success. The paths go directly across ploughed fields or cultivated crops or peter out on the banks of small streams and irrigation canals. In my opinion, the shortest practicable route between White House Farm and Goldhanger without using main roads is via the seawall. However, the shortest and quickest practicable route between White House Farm and Goldhanger by foot, cycle or motor vehicle is by Brook House Farm Track in the B1026. This route is 1,661 metres less than going through Tolsant Darcy. The routes detailed by Police Officer D.I. Wilkinson mostly involved going on the road, and yet no one saw anyone or anything that night. The footpaths away from the road were not negotiable. The seawall is a narrow route with a drop into water on one side. Is it realistic to believe that Jeremy Bamber mounted a lady's bicycle and cycled across routes that were partly overgrown, and he did this all in pitch dark in a matter of minutes? Jeremy Bamber detailed television programs that he watched before he went to sleep, and these were accurate. The police checked his videotapes to see if he had recorded them and watched them later, but there were no such recordings made by Jeremy Bamber, and that's because he watched the television programs just as he said and went to sleep, where he stayed until his father called him. The story of a bicycle journey across farmland is a ridiculous and exaggerated story, invented by the prosecution and fed to them by the suggestions of Robert Bortflower and Anne Eaton. Both benefited from Jeremy's conviction. Even the evidence of the sound moderator, which alleged that someone other than Sheila had carried out the killings, was found by Jeremy's relatives. More information can be found in Jeremy's interview with the Times, dated the 11th of July 2010, on the Jeremy Bamber official website.